Yeah, so I think we're actually really fucked with the work that we're doing. Not because it's shit, it's because it just takes this extra level of guts, of bravery, saying just like, fuck, my life sucks. And I'm in so much pain, and I'm in enough pain that I actually want to make a change.
Yeah.
Because the amount of pain that you collect over the time when it's not enough pain is not big enough actually to make that breakthrough.
That is true.
And to make that change. So people choose to suffer and avoiding this responsibility of making that shift and change.
Yeah.
I know guys suffer as hell, because I was one of them. And if they would know what they could get, what I found over these years through the suffering going on the other side, if I would have been in the fortune to have this guidance when I was in this place, I would have said yes, definitely. But I had nobody. I just had to fucking work through this little shithole step by step and going through all the mistakes and making all that stuff. So I know exactly why it is so difficult. How was it for you, Chris? Coming into this world of
thank you for asking me. So glad to be here with you, with this beautiful lake, and all the children playing around.
Yeah, this is so cool.
This is so nice. This feels like life. Yeah, how was it for me? It was painful, but in fact, the pain was. It was. I like the sentence we had in Sicily in the training. At least it's still a decision. So at some point you have to make a decision. Do I want to stay in that state, or do I want to go to greater pain to greater, better life, and to feel better. So I totally agree to what you say. Like the pain has to be bigger than what you live. You have to be pushed from kind of force that is tearing you apart, and you say, I can't anymore. So it's like a kind of torturing yourself until the point you say, I want to die now, and then you die in a kind of a spiritual way, you know, and you get reborn in a much better way. And it's still the same thing we were discussing last month. How do you get people to this point when they decide to make the steps? And there is something missing here, obviously. How do you make somebody realize something they don't know about?
Yeah, we had this conversation yesterday. We talked about this thing, you know, just like, well, this little pornography and the 5-minute kind of stimuli that they get, you know, and then this 3 to 5 second into le petit moi, and kind of putting their life force into a tissue is fucking devastating, but that's the only thing they have. And if you just actually say, well, there's another fucking world on the other side, and if you master that piece, everything else that is not working in your life will come back online and you have actually access. And then you will feel more. And another friend of mine said, it's like, yeah, but this man, they don't want to feel more, they want to feel less. And as long as they ejaculate, they're actually numbing themselves out. And then, you know, this little bit of suffering is better than actually nothing. And then, and you said that as well yesterday, yeah, but if I give up this last little piece of my gratification, of my joy, of my pleasure, of my, you know, then I don't have anything anymore. Then I'm really lost.
Yeah, basically we're talking about this dopamine kick. Any kind of dopamine kick, you said about pornography and ejaculation, but also the smoking, the alcohol thing, and scrolling on the computer, on the mobile, and so on. So there is a lot of things getting you to numbness, but with a kind of a feeling that you did something good for yourself. And this is a pervert thing about it, that you think you are doing something great because it feels great. We have to be honest, it feels great, but somehow people are not getting to the consequence of that and just staying in that place, oh, I had something great. And because I don't know what it is for you, but I can't remember the feeling of ejaculating. When it's done, and like 2 days later, when you ask yourself, how was the feeling? It's just gone. You know, you like you eat ice cream and you know how chocolate is in your mouth, you know, but how was the feeling of the dopamine kick? You can't describe it, you can't have it.
It's a total oxymoron. You cannot remember the sensation of ejaculation and climax at the same. It doesn't work. Something happens with the brain under this orgasm or climax thing. It's a contraction in the brain, and that what happens down there is a spasmic reflex. But this contraction in the brain makes it unmemorable. So because if you could remember that, you could not have the amount of storage in your brain that you need to store the sensation, because it's so fucking huge, therefore you have to forget it, and then you do it again and you just totally don't remember that, why you better should keep your semen in. Because the interesting thing is, and everybody can test that for themselves, that the most exciting sensation that you feel when you're going down that hole into the mastery is that it doesn't belong to the climax that feels the best. It's the moment before that feels the best.
Yeah.
And the energy is so high, and then you have the, you know, and then the crash afterwards, and then the crash in itself is what is memorable. But even that, you will forget.
Yeah, it is true. I don't know for others, but I asked that myself, and I couldn't put words or feelings or anything on it. I just know I did it at some point, and so this dopamine kick is a kind of a problem of getting a reward for doing something, but you don't even know how it felt, and somehow the work to do to pass that is linked to some suffering that you don't want. Why would you want to suffer? It's just dumb, you know. And as far as you don't do that, you will not get to the part when you say, oh, there is something else out there. And it's like staying on the coast of France and saying, oh, the ocean is like so bright, I'm afraid of it, without knowing that there is another land out there. And you have to go there, you have to cross it, you have to suffer, you have to, you know, and how to get people to try it so long that they get to the other point and say, wow, now I get it.
Mm. How was that for you? I mean, we met about a year ago, something like that, and I started slowly introducing you in different chapter into the concept. I don't know anymore because it's 30 years ago for me, and I had I need my 10 years of actually figuring it out myself. And now I'm capable of guiding people through this embodiment in a much shorter period of time, even though after a year you're not fully there, but you just know what the direction is. You just know where you're going. And so how was it for you?
Well, actually, it has more or less to do with my mindset. I like to try stuff myself. I don't believe it until I do it myself. So basically, if I'm honest, I was trying to show you wrong, how wrong your concept is. And I was like, maybe if there's something I'll discover it. So let's do it and just be critical and to get into it with some patience also. And also had the whole pain, suffering going on in my life. So I wanted to go out of that. And I was like, if there is a solution there, let's explore it. So let's try it like I always do, like 100%, even 200%, like on a very extreme way. And I find something else, and that is what's changed. It was not easy. It was kind of work you do, and you have some throwbacks, and you get on again, and so you improve over time. I remember that, and I think it's the case in society today, what helped me was what clicked in at some point was to slow down. Slow down. We talked about it yesterday about not getting into a rush, to stay in the rush, but to slow down everything. And I'd like you to explain again how your brain is processing information when you go slow and when you go fast. Because this was a huge difference for me. Well, this is knowledge, but you can feel it when you do it long enough, like some weeks perhaps, like 3-4 weeks of waking the hands. Yeah, and waking up the hands, and maybe you share some words about how the brain is processing information when you do it slow and fast. Yeah,
it's this
important piece, I think.
I mean, there are many teachers out there who are just teaching slow sex and what slow sex is and why and how and when and where and so on. So this place is owned by ants, and they just actually see us as food. It's a huge amount of food that we are, but they actually, and they live over there in the tree. It's like we're sitting in their garden.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there is this part of the brain, this cerebellum on the backside of the head, yeah. And the cerebellum is a part that is like a filter or something you can imagine. And there are coming different impulses from different parts of your brain, specifically from your motor cortex. And your motor cortex in the somatic nervous system is that one that sends impulses, just like, move, walk, do this, just like doing different things. And when you have a specific speed that you have, this impulse from the motor cortex sends a copy of this movement into the feeling center. Yeah? And when this copy of this movement arrives in the feeling center knows, so your arm will move very fast, or something's moving very fast, and therefore we need to inhibit, so make it less intense, the feeling that you have. Otherwise you would get overwhelmed if you would have the same sensation. If you would go really fast, you would overwhelm, and your feeling center would get overflooded.
It's not processable for our brain. It's too much information at a time.
Yeah, and different people have different, filter in the cerebellum as they have different, sets of sensations in there. But this is literally the dynamic, the kind of architecture, the techniques around that, and specifically when it comes to sex, is the same thing. The slower you go, the more you will feel.
Yeah.
And the faster you go, the less you will feel. Specifically, some man might think, so yeah, sure, let's go faster, and I don't feel less, and I can fuck long. Yeah, but when your sympathetic is overrun, and what is in this thing of Tantra is this so-called yang, the action that is always built on the yin, what is the sensuality and the sensitivity. And if you just don't have the enough foundation of sensitivity and softness, and you just go straight into yang, what is just like this doing thing without building it up, then your sympathetic nervous system has as well burn out. So you just burn empty very fast. And what that does, the sympathetic part, that is known as this action when you're super fast, is that part in your nervous system, in your brain, that is literally making you ejaculate, making you orgasm.
Yeah.
And then guys say, yeah, well, there's this Montauk shear thing. I just squeeze what is the sympathetic response, my pelvic floor, and hold back. I just do this kind of tricks. And, but what that does, it just tightens up your muscle system. And you're just trying to avoid something with a technique that is engaging the same dynamics. So you're just trying to avoid something that is actually causing the same structure. And then just like you just go super fast, you have no control about anything, and all of a sudden you come on that edge, on that level, and then just like there is no fucking way you can handle it. It doesn't matter how much you breathe, it doesn't matter how much you squeeze, it doesn't matter how much you just do. You get into the overwhelm, you get into the overload, and then bye. It's funny, but there is this joke about women having sex with men, and then he just comes after 3 minutes or something like that, and then he said, "Oh my God, I was so good. How were you?" And she's looking still at the ceiling, just like, "Okay, that was it." Knowing the energy is gone now. And then guys say, "Well, I just come once at the end, then it's gone, and then it takes me 5 minutes and I get hard again, and then I can really fuck." But this is just only friction-based and goal-oriented because they want to come twice. And then they just really nail the living fuck out of a woman. There's no connection anymore. The energy is not there. The emotional thing is not there. It's all left brain goal-oriented. And, you know, the real essence is not there. So the slower you go, the more connection you will have, and based on that connection you literally build that experience, so to say. But the cerebellum is that one that is blocking this, that is sending the impulses.
So basically too much information at the same time is just not registered from the body. It's just making a copy in some kind of archive that you don't even have access to. And so you think you are the king of what you are doing, a matter of doing it fast and long and in numbness.
Yeah.
So
and there are other aspects of that. For example, the reward circuit. So that one that satisfaction is a dopamine circuit in this regard. There is something, and you know, scientifically proven or not, I don't know, but this is where I picked it up, and that made sense to me, and maybe people have a different opinion on that, but that's okay, is that with every sexual encounter and with every climax we release an enzyme that this researcher called delta force B. This is how it calls, that is craving in your reward circuit, a kind of you know, when you see here my finger, and I just do this one, you don't see that much here, But if I do that with my fingernail, you know, 10, 20 times, all of a sudden you just start seeing that mark, And that means sexual energy starts with something, with sensuality, it starts with something here, and the mark has kind of created that pathway. This is where it ends, and that's the climax, that's the orgasm in the reward center. And you just, when you have done that a few hundred or thousand times, you just have actually marked out your sexuality in this regard. And there's another researcher, I don't know who that was, doesn't matter, who said that specifically when it comes to addiction and addictive behavior to the reward center, that you know, when you're young, the reward center is very kind of a gel, kind of just like flexible in a way. And the older that you get, it just calcifies, it gets more solid in a way. So the meaning when you're over a certain age, and he found out is about 45 or so, when you're above 45 is calcified, and if you have an addictive behavior, specifically when it comes to ejaculation and orgasm and climaxing, you cannot bypass that one anymore. There is this thing about neuroplasticity, having different pathways, but specifically when it comes to reward circuits, this one is kind of hardwired in your reward center. And this is why it is so difficult for older men, and specifically any kind of addictive behavior, but specifically here to orgasm and climax. And that means just like you're once an addict, you're always an addict, and you have to deal with that for the rest of your life. So everybody who is over 45 and has struggling with that, just like, this is so much more harder.
But still possible.
But it's still possible. But it's so much harder.
Good news.
How does that sound? Have I ever shared that with you?
Yeah, not yet. That was new today, but it makes sense. It makes sense to me. Rewiring the circuits in your brain is part of what we do in any kind of field, not only in sex part. But I can imagine that when you do that long enough, that the circuits are just so built together in so much, in such a way that it's really hard to deconstruct and reconstruct.
Sorry,
it's like building some huge building, you know, and then you say, oh, we did it wrong. We want to do something else. It's not the form we wanted to build. So you have to build it, you know, again, and so it's taking time. Yeah, I think it makes sense. What I would like to get into is you said the word connection, and I see the connection between men and women. On one side, we have the man who is like, well, let's talk about sex first. Very excited about having an erection and like getting some feelings of getting into a rush again, you know. And we have the woman who needs like, I don't know, at least the numbers are 45 minutes to get ready. At least 45 minutes to get ready to receive the penis, the lingam of the man. So basically we have quite of a unbalanced match here, with two things not really, at first not really compatible. And so what it changed for me in that area specifically is that I learned how to slow down and build up this connection first, which it doesn't mean that you will lose or not be able to have an erection again, but this is what was in my mind. It was like, I'm doing it slow, like you teach me, yeah? And somehow you lose your erection and you're like, what is happening now? Am I still a man? Am I able to do something and whatever? And it's so strange the first time, but when you go through that, the connection with the partner is happening. Mm-hmm. And this connection, when you stay in the slow, in the very presence, we have to talk about presence too after that. Mm-hmm. And when you go into that slow motion present thing, you go over this, it sounds so spiritual. It's not even spiritual, it's just science, you know. But you go in the kind of other world with the person. And it is like meeting on another level. And you still can have sex like normally and do stuff and so on, but the sensation is a very much deeper and much more intense, and it's a bigger feeling, it's a bigger, deeper connection with the other person. And the funny thing about that is basically we are beings with social needs, so with a need of connection. And we live in this society where, like we were talking yesterday, where everything has to be fast. Like you need to get an information, you get on your mobile in 3 seconds, you speak to it like in 3 other seconds, and within 10 seconds you have the answer you need, right? So everything is done today that you go fast. Even when you have to deliver something, you have to go fast. And this is the one thing that is not working when you get into human connection, because you need time. Mm-hmm. You need time and you need consciousness, and you need to be there at the moment and with the person and with yourself, and for that you just need to slow down. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit deeper about connection.
Yeah, and I'd like to do that.
When you say the word, just like what does it actually mean and what does it entangle?
Yeah.
And you know, specifically when I talked about the addictive circle and the circuit before that an addiction is literally a separation from connection, and the opposite of addiction is not sobriety of the substitution. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah. And
when you see it from that perspective, that addiction, the satisfactory pathway is the circuit of the reward center and dopamine, and you see the connection line is the oxytocin-based thing that goes into serotonin and contentment, then you see it from that perspective that most men living their sexuality on this dopamine circuit of satisfaction. And what is literally most of the time this addictive circuit. So the connection hasn't been there in the first place, because sexuality based on this delta force B pathway of the circuit is literally the goal and the agenda of gratification and dopamine based addiction literally.
Yeah.
But then when you just go into this place of you just need to slow down and you just take the goal out of the equation and you just want to have, you know, connection, and you wait this, you know, you said 45 minutes. I said just like, well, there is literally no foreplay, it's just like play, and when the woman is ready, you will know.
Yeah.
And how long it takes, you know, in the tantric realm sometimes when women are really in this continuum of a turn on, it can be just like that. But you know when she's ready. But the interesting thing is when you said losing the erection, as a man, when you're just actually in this empty yang-oriented, dopamine, goal-oriented kind of gratification sexuality, or what some people call the masculine or the patriarchy way of sex, because it's just reproduction-based of making more of us and claiming your, I don't know, your tribe or something. But when you get away from this specific way of sexuality, then you will go through this part where you lose your erection.
Yeah.
And
sure.
this losing this erection doesn't mean anything, because it doesn't give you any label of who you are, that you are hard all the time. And if you would be hard all the time and you have this kind of craving of just, but now I'm just hard, I just need to have sex, I need to come, because otherwise my stamina is gone. But just like, let's lose it and just see what's beyond that. And what comes up is most of the time a vulnerability and the softness and the sweetness and the connection. And because then you can actually love and feel and touch. And this is the key component for most men to understand, that the woman's womb, the cervix, the sexual organ internally, not the external one, the same as for us men, the pudendal nerve, but internally, is the vagus nerve connection. Is this one that is related to our social engagement system.
Back to the nervous system
back
story.
To the nervous system story. But
you will not get away from that.
You will not get away from that, because it's so profound. Because as well, the spiritual aspect is in there. The bliss state, the DMT release, and everything else. We can talk more about that in a moment if you want to. But this thing of this connection to the uterus from the heart in a woman's body, and the facial expression, the safety, the connection, the emotional, the feeling state, the connection, the heart included in there, needs to be in the right place to actually being in this blossoming expansion opening. And what is really interesting, and I remember that back then, yes, you lose your erection and it feels horrible, and you just think you just lose your manhood, your stamina.
You have
all
so
that.
many doubts at once, and then you are in the mind fuck with what is going to think about me? What is going on? Am I sick? Am I mad? What is going on?
Yeah, just I'm not man anymore. Helplessness, useless. But what happens is, when the woman's heart is really activated, and this is connected to the womb and to the cervix, I experience that what makes me hard is love. And this is connection based. It is like, you just slow down enough, you touch and feel, you connect. You're just making this eye contact, you just simply breathe with each other, not like you're just sitting and just doing this. It's not that. It's actually you're just in connection with your breath. There are different practices that you can do with each other, but without having any technique, but just like being in connection with your body, and meaning just like you just synchronize your breath just for a few moments. And what that creates is like an empathetic feedback loop with each other, and that in itself is beautiful, and that makes me hard. And when I stay hard there is an experience that starts to become whatever spiritual means, and everybody has their own experience in there, but it just becomes a different thing, because the gratification of the goal is gone. And when this is gone, it just makes all the difference.
I think to this topic of connection, there is also a big misunderstanding about the expectation of the other person. So basically, and for us too as men, this expectation of like you said, staying hard and being good in bed, but being good in bed means for a normal guy, like many of us, it's like I was still hard, and I managed to be in the woman forth and back 10 minutes, or 20 minutes time,
Superman.
And so there is a lot of misunderstanding within men, and perhaps also within women, and also about the other one. And so I always thought that women were expecting that from me, and I discovered that it is not true, not really true. And there is a huge misunderstanding in that, and I feel today that people don't want to understand it anymore. It's just like, well, I don't know what I do wrong. I'm still in the standard of what I think is right, but it's not working and I have no other way or no other option. And if it's not working, so it's not meant to be. You know what I mean? And so we have frustrated men, frustrated women, people saying, I don't like sex. I'm still like, yeah, so you never had really sex, like in a way that is good for you. Mm-hmm. And obviously it was not good till now. And so the question would be, what do we do to show people how good it can get? Because it's still the question from the beginning. If you don't know how it is, how are you willing to go the way? How you are going to do the work? I mean, it's just our word on a camera, on the internet, you know. And of course we know because we did it, because we were on this place of huge suffering, and we said, I don't want that. We took the decision, there is another path, I want to try it, I will try it, I tried it, and that's it. It could have been the wrong path. So how do you distinguish from what you don't know, what is wrong, what is right? I mean, people are a little bit lost, you know. So how do we say people here, you know, you're a man, but you don't have the right expectation from yourself, from your partner, and the same thing for a woman. So we are meant to be together. It's just how it is. But the way just went way. Not together, just away from each other. Above the last, I don't know, many years. And now I feel people are just lost with this feeling, I'm attracted, but I don't even know how to get into that connection. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good question, you know. How can you speak the unspeakable? How can you show the unshowable? How can you, and even when it's being said and shown, just like how can you make that memorable, what you cannot memorize?
Yeah.
You know, this is the hard thing. So the mystery is just is unrepeatable. You cannot contain it, and even whatever you try, you know, and even though if you do, then it becomes an oldie on one point. But as deep as I can explain it and discover it, it's.
And I have the example of a video I saw on the internet. I don't know where and who, it doesn't matter. It was a woman asking somebody, how do I deal with a man who is more emotional than I am? And the answer of the person was, well, if your man is showing his feelings to you, it's a good thing, because if he's not showing you as his lover feelings, who is going to show them too? So how is it going to work? And the misunderstanding, for example, on that point is you want to show feelings, but what women don't want and what you don't want as a man is to explode uncontrolled about your feelings. It's the type of men you have, I think, that are grabbing something in the house, getting angry and throwing it all through the living room, you know? Like this pure masculinity, angry thing that nobody has in control. And is not providing safety for a woman. And women on the other side want to see the emotions we have to feel, this magic word, I would think, is vulnerability about a man, to be able to show under the armor there is something very deep, but not uncontrolled. Yeah, and I think this is one of the misunderstandings today, that men say, like you hear when you're a kid, you know, your father says, be a man, don't cry, and so you don't show emotions at all. And this is a mistake. But you have to do it in a kind of controlled way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. And
And this is for nobody who doesn't know what we are talking about. How do you explain to that person what is the difference? What is the impact?
I was still trying to chew on the last question you had before, just like how can you show this? How can you show that? So you know, you've seen that in my home here in my studio, my little digital kind of capture devices, you know. And yeah. I've tried since 10 years everything to make that accessible in form of art and education, and I've tried everything, and whatever I do, it just looks like porn because it's visual, and when it's visual, you just bypass the experience from the neck downwards in the body.
Yeah.
And you know, there are situations where I have captured it in a very loving, sweet way, you know, for a long period of times, 2 hours lovemaking in the most ecstatic way, and just like a state of camera there, that's just the witness in the room, and without interfering into anything. And it's raw, it's real, it's honest, it's beautiful.
Yeah, let's be clear, there is no magic. It's just a body response to a stimulation we have while doing something, right?
Right, and when I watch that myself, I would call it self-porn. I see what is being felt there. I can feel what is being felt, but this is only true for myself. Does other people have the same experience when they see that? And doesn't it become then a voyeuristic, pornographic thing again? So therefore, how to show that, and how to explain it, and how to say it, because every word can deliver a message, but it's the piece behind the word that shows you the space of infinity. Yeah. And let me go a level deeper in that. And so we just, or people like me who just trying to find the language, the communication around that, and just educating people. How do we deliver that? So we're just providing space that's safe enough that people have the experience that they choose to have in a certain container to facilitate sessions, workshops, trainings, retreats, all that stuff. But still, it's still the context of an artificial engagement, because nothing can replace the magic of lovemaking with your beloved one after an intense situation or something. But what I really want to go into is, and I don't know how much I've shared that with you, is this part without putting it on David Deida or the 3 steps that he is using. But it's a very profound teaching that I'm using. That's pretty much the only one that I'm using from David Deida, and that has been very resonating with me. And I just need to check one thing with the microphone. Yes, your microphone in the right place. So it's a little bit windy, and it might pick up some wind, but it just doesn't really matter. So you know,
we'll make a workshop after that for people.
Yeah. So when you see the first step in this process is, you know, the guy is a fucking dickhead, is an asshole, is a jerk, just like my way or the fucking highway. I don't give a fuck. It's just like the abusive bully dude who is just like, I don't give a fuck about you, I do what I want, and I just don't care about what's going on the other side, and does its own thing, you know. And women have to just like obey, and just like, yeah, you know, this typical patriarchy.
Yeah.
What is this word? Misogynist? This word that was just coming up as kind of the
misogynistic.
Yeah, genau, the patriarchy way of using women for their own sexual gratification.
Like the hate of women about the way you behave, talk, and so on.
So this stupid stereotype of the idiot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's say idiot.
You know, the hero macho guy kind of thing. Yeah. And then, you know, as far as I can see, you know, through the last 50 years of my life, the kind of feminism, kind of women stepping up into their power, stop men doing that, the call out of the rapist, abusing, masculine kind of stuff. And because women who being obedient to this macho behavior, this are step 1 women to a step 1 guy, you know. It's just like the stereotype of control and unconsciousness in a way. And then the guys are in power and control, and they stay there because there's no way to evolve from there, because they have everything they need and don't give a fuck about anything. And then the women say just like, this is enough, stop. Yeah? And the women start to just like, we have rights, and this is what we want, and we have a different body, and we need to have a different awareness, and we are not willing to engage with this bullshit anymore. So they evolve into the second step where they say just like, enough. And then you have this kind of nearly demanding, forcing, pushing, inviting, welcoming, but empowering, stop the abuse kind of women mentality. What is really, really needed as a counter movement to these idiotic things.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're just recognizing there's nobody we can actually engage or be with. Look, they're just a butterfly land. Isn't it beautiful? Hi, welcome. And then they demand guys to be into their masculine power, but in relationship, and then all this man just like, well, I don't feel anything. I say, yeah, okay, I'm willing to evolve, and then the masculine ideology goes on the second step. What is just like, yeah, I can feel everything. I'm in connection, and I just want to float around, and everything is so beautiful. And it's this love, and this, oh, look, the butterfly, it's so sweet, and we are the same, and gender doesn't exist, and we are all one, and just we're floating in space together.
Yeah.
No, I don't need the direction, and so they're going into this place where women finally feel safe with. There is no misuse or abuse by it. There's just kind of equality, if you want to say so. Women don't need to fight for their rights anymore, and men don't demand anything. It's just, and all of a sudden there's zero polarity.
Yeah.
There's no friction, but there is no resonance field anymore. There is no connection really.
Yeah, I wanted to say it's not like they are feeling safety, they are feeling similarity.
Yeah, and
it's more like similarity than safety, right?
Yeah, and something is missing there, you know? And then the guys, the only thing that they know as a role model is the step one guy. Yeah, and they are just like, fuck, if I'm going into step one, guys, just like I'm getting grilled,
Yeah.
And this female rage is becoming stronger because there's nobody there for them anymore. They just completely dry out.
Yeah.
They're just losing connection because they're not being met in their real essence anymore, because this man, stage 2 guys, just like, well, yeah, you said you don't want me to feel more, now I'm feeling more, and now I'm not good enough, and I'm feeling really sad, and and then I'm afraid of just being rejected, and I feel my wounds, but I don't know what I should do, and how can I actually be with you, and you know exactly what I mean, right? Yeah. Because it shows up everywhere, and then the point of from a neurological perspective, coming back to the nervous system.
Yeah.
It's in the nervous system, in a woman's body, the essence to surrender to that. And the essence to surrender is only capable to the essence of integrity, of power with, of somebody who's given the gift of power and taken the risk to bring a woman into that state where she can't go on her own. In lovemaking, in unity, in oneness, as a spiritual practice, not in 5.5 minutes, maybe not in 30 minutes, but in an intense 2-3 hour deep connecting love-making session that has the essence of reality, of life force in it. And to do that, the guy has to take a risk. The second stage guy, he has to take the risk of being in his power like the stage 1 guy. Just like, I can guide you to the kingdom, I can provide surrender, I can be in my power, I can be in my strength, I can take the risk, I can take 1 foot out of the comfort zone, but making sure that you're safe and protect you, taking care of you, whatever happens, I hold you, it doesn't matter what comes up, because I am with you here right now. I go into that state and I bring you into that state of surrender because I love you when you're there, and give it to me that I can give it to you. Just like this state that women longing for. So he has to make that step into the third step. That is not the first step, but it's pretty similar. But he knows from a place of love and care that it's not about him, it's about them. Yeah, and then when he is in that third step and he is in the place of just like, I know it's a risk, I know I have to take my power in my hands here, and I have to claim my balls and my cock and my entire body, my spirit, my essence, my being. I can lift you up to that third step. Yeah, and I can hold you there as long as I can. I've mastered the art. I know my stamina. It's not about the gratification. It's not about me coming and just blowing out my load after 3 minutes because I've seen it in porn or wherever it is. We stay there as long as we can, and where the unity of lovemaking and infinity opens up into this space of love and beauty and presence, the connection, and the heart, the whole thing, the connection from the heart to the womb, the circuit, everything goes bang, and you just become an orgasmic state together as oneness, not for 3.5 seconds, for hours, and not only once a week or a month, just like as often as long as you want, whenever you have that space in magic moments, because you have connection, you have access, you just and then you just actually hold it there in the third stage. And this is so rare, because women longing for that third stage man, they are afraid of making mistakes, because the second stage women, they're still judging the first stage guy, but your being in your power to the first stage guy is so similar. But you have to take that risk, and now just like, I can make mistakes, but when I make a mistake, I can own up to that mistake. And this is hard stuff, you have to be in connection with your stuff in level 2, but I lift everything up in the third stage. I'm not falling back, becoming an asshole, and abusing, misusing stuff, because I've done my work. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I want to put it in a more simpler way, if it's
Please,
okay.
Yeah, just make it really simple.
I sure understand what you say, but like when we started to work together, I would have said like, what? What is he talking about? I want to put it that way. In 2 steps, I want to talk a little bit of polarity in a very simple way, because you pronounce that word, and so we have the masculine, the feminine, and we have both in one body, not depending on if you're a man or woman, but we have both parts in our body. But the way I interpreted that, and I'm trying to live that in my life, is that I'm a man, I'm more connected with the masculine side, so I have to work a little bit more with my feminine side. Doesn't mean I don't have to work with the masculine, but it's more present for me, I'm more connected to it. And of course, women are most connected to their feminine side. And what you describe is that with this part of feminism is getting the masculine part more out of the woman. Like masculine is giving a frame, giving a direct direction, leading, and the feminine part is more like being creative, being alive, but within the frame. So you have to bring both parts together, right? Within you and within your relationship with your partner. So it's a polarity thing. When you think it out of a circuit with a battery, you have to put a polarity in it so you can get the energy to roll, okay? And this kind of masculine feminine play with the way you behave, the way you are, is giving this polarity within you and with your partner, okay? And the example I want to give is, because I know it well, it's about dancing. Dancing, when I'm talking about salsa right now, but it works for any kind of dance, where the man is giving the frame, is giving the lead, and the woman is following and making any kind of styling to make that thing beautiful. But the man styling normally is very little part, and there is a much bigger part of woman styling. And this is how it works also in life. And this is not saying that a woman can't lead. This is just a question of polarity. So if you want the energy to roll, if you want to have this connection happening, you need to have a partner who is leading and the other one is following. You have to have one who is making the frame and the other one is creative in that frame. And it's kind of it's kind of shifting, especially when I give classes in dancing. I have many women starting to lead, because the man is like hesitating, because he's learning, because he's not that far, because trust is missing, because everybody's coming from work to the class with this package, with the stress and whatever. And so I see many women taking the lead, and so I like to stop that and say, let's speak about the rules again. The man is leading, the woman is following. Okay, and we tend to speak more about not women, men, but the lead and the following. So because sometimes we have women and men changing the roles, which is totally okay, but you have to respect that to create the oneness you are speaking about. So when you dance, you looks like one thing doing something beautiful, and this is what you meant with the oneness. When you have a man leading and a woman starting to create a lead, because she thinks, and most of women doing that think they know what is coming, you will have a chaos. You have two forces like fighting, and it's not possible to work.
I have an idea how to show that people who watch that can do it. Are you willing to do it?
Yeah, just finishing on the dancing.
Okay, yes.
And then you have the other part. You have the other part when the woman can surrender in a good leading, in a good frame, when she feels safe, and when she's surrendering, she's getting so much creative and creating so much beauty. And this is what is coming back to the man, to the leading part. And so we have this polarity, and this polarity in dancing, you can have it in a relationship. But because the society changed at some point, we now have women leading in their profession, which is totally okay. But coming back home to the man, still in this mindset of leading. So at some point you don't have the polarity anymore. So everybody, men, women, leading, following, all lost.
Yeah, the most important piece is to understand for most people who are watching that or listening to that, the most important piece is that the woman's state of infinity comes through this access through surrender. Yeah, and they are the conduit of this transformation, because men can't go there on their own, because women go there when men can hold them there in the third step, what I just described before. And the interesting thing, and this is why the 3-minute game is so powerful about that structure. From Harry Fedis, the second.
Give a link to the 3-minute game.
Yeah. So the second step, you just need to give your power to greater power than yourself to save your sanity. Otherwise, you can't surrender in this regard. And this is so powerful because women, through this vagus nerve connection, through the mind or the brain, the heart, and the womb, carries this doorway into the state of surrender. And I've said that in so many locations, but unfortunately it's gone. You can't nail it on a wall somewhere, and then people read it forever, and they're like, this is the truth. Yeah. And this is why it is an ongoing practice to educate and going on a deeper level and showing people what works, and being aware of power dynamics and indifferentiations, and being in alignment and truth and all that stuff. And what I want to show is a little bit, and I'll just change that here because we just need our hands here. And I think we have done that, I don't know, in the training, but this is what I normally do on festivals to show people what I mean when I say that. So two people put their hand together, you put your right hand up, and there's somewhere in there, this is a 0 point. Yeah. I don't move, you don't move, I don't lead, you don't lead. Yeah? And now just like for a few moments, by decision, I say I lead and you follow. Yeah? So I do what I want and you follow me. And then in the moment when I lead and you follow, I see very quickly, clearly, is there a resistance or is there following? Yeah? And then you come back to the 0 point, and now you lead and I follow.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
And then you see and feel the same thing. It's just from the outside, you don't know who is moving, but it's made on the decision. And because there's between two people this dynamics of of leadership. You know what you just said. If a woman leads all day and then she comes home and want to be led but is still leading, just like, sorry, it won't work. So this is the classical example of leading and following.
Yeah.
And now we do both leading.
Yeah.
Just like,
and you can feel the fight.
Who is saying it?
And you see the chaos.
And you see the chaos.
Yeah.
And then you go back, and this is where most relationships are hanging out. And then the rest of relationship is both following. Waiting for the other person fucking going in action and taking the lead, and then getting fucking devastated and frustrated that nothing is happening. And then the art is what is happening, because people have a different setting of authority and leadership, and that is a game. It's this what I said yesterday, the state of play and this hybrid state in the nervous system, where this is only possible in connection. You lead and I lead, and you follow and I follow, and it becomes a play. It goes back and forth, and some people are more dominant and some people are more submissive, and they know when it's happening, and then you just go into the playful way. And
I know what you mean. But you know, this is the part where we're still back at how do you explain people what we just did with the hands, because for that to do, you know how to lead, you have to know how to lead and how to follow, and you have to know how to play with both at the same time. Both at the time was the last thing we did right now. So it's a switch of half a second between I feel you are leading, I'm deciding to letting you, and I'm taking over again, so you feel and letting me do it. So it's kind of a very kind of fast switch in the feeling of that. And when I do that, I'm not in my brain, I'm not in my I'm not thinking, I'm just in the feeling. But you have to develop this feeling. I know that because of dancing, because I also can dance as a woman, as a follower. Yeah, you have to when you give classes.
Dancing as a woman is just like not the right thing.
I could do that.
Dancing as a follower.
As a follower, as a follower. But you have to know that, and it's changed my perception of leading, following at that time when I started with. It's like 10 years ago, maybe longer. And sometimes in classes we do this switch. We tell the woman, now you take the lead, and we tell the man, now you follow. And it's just so horrible for everybody.
Because their conditioning is confronted, right?
Yeah, because they are in a kind of conditioning of women following and men leading and so on. But at the same time, they are still in this mindset of I'm a follower, but I'm leading or trying or whatever. And the man is like, I'm supposed to lead, but I have no chance, so I don't know what to do. So it's not doing nothing. So basically following something that is not happening. But with switching the roles, bring the awareness of the woman in the role of leading, saying, wow, this is so hard for men. This is so much fucking hard. What you have to follow. Yeah, and so the man is like, I have no idea what she wants. I can't interpret that because the leading is not precise enough. And switching the roles is a very kind of nice exercise to do because you get the awareness of people. What is it you really want? So if you want to lead, you have to lead. If you want to follow, you have to surrender. Yeah.
I would like to add a few more things to that because
I would just say another thing. There is nothing wrong, I think, in a relationship when the woman is leading and the man is following. I'm not saying that men have to lead and women have to follow. It's not what I'm saying. I know couples where the polarity is just that way, that the woman is leading and the man is following. But what's the really much important thing is you have to have this polarity, that some of the two is leading and the other one is following. Yeah. And in a relationship, and the last thing I said before you can get on, and this is a process which is switching in the relationship.
Yeah, and this
is not a fixing when you say, I'm the man, I'm going to lead the whole time 24/7, you are going to surrender and follow.
What is patriarchy again? Right?
Yeah, it's like this unhealthy thing that women have been struggling with for a long time, and we have to recognize that this is a thing living.
Yeah.
The polarity is living into many things.
It's a living thing.
Yeah.
So the important piece here is that even in homosexual relationships, or in non-sexual identified gender open relationships, this polarity needs to be in place.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've seen that it becomes unhealthy if one person is only in the lead and one person is only in the follow.
Yeah.
Because the polarity of switching needs to be in place, because
Yeah.
you lead, you learn leading in following, and you learn following in leading.
Yeah.
So you need to have the opposite. But the point that I want to bring up is that what we just did, this exercise with the hands, when you just combine that with the body in the form of consent, in the form of the agreement, neurologically speaking, and we integrate as well the sensory inflow, so that you use your body and start feeling, and then you have the lead and the following part of that, and then you include sexual energy and bring that into that realm of, it's not about the goal, it's about the journey that we have together,
about the experience,
and this is where the magic literally starts in this realm. And 1 second, and when I speak, so I've been doing this camming thing, trying to educate people online, showing how to etch and stuff like that, and I had over the last few weeks a few men really interested. So I was like, how the heck is it happening? How do you do that? And I said there are 2 things you need to have in place, specifically as a man. The first thing is you need to have the sensory inflow open. So in the somatic nervous system, your action for your own pleasure.
It's like the 80% of the phases of the nervous system flowing from out into the brain. So
the understanding,
the experience in the brain.
The embodied understanding between the direct route and the indirect route.
Yeah.
So not what you do, what comes back. No, purely what you do, what you feel. So this needs to be in the first place, that needs to be in there. And the second one is, this is what we said in the beginning, the sympathetic part of the nervous system, the contraction, the holding, petting, the squeezing of the anus, the perineum, the pelvic floor, all that stuff, the controlling of ejaculation and erection, all that, the clenching thing, this has to change from the control mechanism into the relaxation and into the expansion through breathing, through expanding when you're inhaling. And if this 2 pieces not in place, and that's what we have done before about leading and following, in this, it's like, you can do 1,000 things in your life, you will go nowhere if this is not in place.
I want to speak about those 2 things now.
Yeah, please go for it.
I like it. It clicked in me like many months ago now. And the first one is a quick one. Is when you said about the second part. A strong muscle is a relaxed muscle, meaning that when you are, when you start to live in this position that you're contracting everything, you can't hold it like forever. So you don't have any energy to do whatever you want to do. Yeah, you want to do sport, you want to be concentrated on some project, whatever. You can't do that. So basically it's the same when you are having sex or doing whatever you want to do. And what you said is the way you relax your body is getting this polarity, this energy to roll all over the body. And for that you get this experience of getting everywhere as a sensation and not just like done, next. And the second one is the first point you said, you told about the sensory inflow. So basically what we are talking about, for people not knowing, is making the experience that when you go slow enough, your nervous system is taking 80% of the experience from the outside in your brain, so meaning touching and so on. And when you do that slow, you have this part of your brain which is not overwhelmed with so many information. So basically you are getting the information. And while getting this information in a very slow way, you can make your own experience with that. And this is the way going. The problem with that was a problem for me, still is sometimes, is when you go slow, it's getting kind of boring, And this boring thing is activating your brain, and your brain is starting to play with you, saying, what I have to do today, what did I did yesterday, blah 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 blah.
We talked about that
And
yesterday. The gap between boredom, the gap between excitement and contentment is boredom.
So the vacuum in there, and the vacuum is used from your brain to tell you any kind of story.
Yeah.
And so what I want to talk about is the presence. So basically, when you stay with your I want to say with yourself, but it's not helping people because they don't know what I'm meaning, perhaps. So,
I can just cut in and say that when you're speaking to be present, what I'm doing all the time, I have one hand here and I have one hand here, and I'm all the time in this micro movement and feeling this tingling on my hand that keeps me all the time present.
So what is being present? It's a good thing because I didn't know before. Discovered the feeling of being present. Being present is when you are in the field we are talking about, you are with your partner and you get into the touch, into the cuddling, into the kissing, into the sex, and whatever you do with your partner in this field. Whether you do it fast, and so you are just like overwhelming all kind of sensory inflow you have about your brain, your nervous system, and whatever, okay? And if you start to doing slow, there is this sensation of being in your body, like your brain is not only in your head, it's getting everywhere. Mm-hmm. And you just talk a little bit about it, but what it changed a little bit. It changed a big thing for me. I was a big people pleaser. So basically, what I was doing for my partners before was I was trying to please them so I can get a positive response and be happy about it. Yeah. And the thing about getting slow and getting your attention on what you do is giving you this presence. So when you do it for yourself, and it's not because you are selfish or egoistic or whatever. It's just bringing you into this presence. And there is a fine line between being selfish and being present on that point. But I discovered that when I am doing for myself slowly something, my partner is feeling it. That I'm really like concentrated, I would say, on what and where I'm touching, but not to please her, just for me because I like to do what I'm doing. And this is a thing I think people don't know about, that when you do for yourself in a very slow way with another person,
you're very present.
Also like a practitioner for physiotherapy or whatever, when you are doing that, you build up what we call presence, and this presence is felt from the other person, and the experience is way over what you can imagine and feel, and you have this huge connection with the person. And the funny thing is, the second you let your brain tell you a story and you go out of this present thing, the other person is also feeling it.
The feedback loop, the mirror neurons.
Yeah. And it's awful because you say, oh, I got caught. Shit. Let's go back to the contact, And this is a huge thing to perhaps to begin to. Just to go to somebody, just making some exercise and just try for it yourself, just before you call us and want a session on explanation training, whatever, just make the experience yourself. Just go to somebody and just put your hands on the body with consent, of course, and just try to move like in a slow motion, and keep your awareness of the contact you have. And try to see what is happening and think about the mind and so on, but keep your attention to what you feel in your body.
I would like to say that because this is what you just mentioned. So I just do, every Monday this Monday calls, and then people ask questions, and how do we implement it in my life?
I do it on Sunday, you do it on Monday.
Right, and I do Wednesdays, hand meditation, 15 minutes. So everybody who is watching, there are enough opportunities to get a sense of what we're doing. And I want to share one more thing, because you said that yesterday in our podcast about just like, but when I'm constantly in my mind, how do I get out of my mind? How do I get away when I'm stressed and when I'm looping in there? And this is something that I love to share. It's the so-called inside, outside, upside down.
Yes,
And it's so interesting, because most of the time we are in this upside down, what is literally the looping of the mind. The three different parts of the mind who just constantly sending information back and forth that keeps us in the identification from the past, projected in the future, but we're never present. And presence happens in the body, the sensory experience, the 80% that you just mentioned a few times. But there is from the mind into the body, there's the sensory experience. There is literally no neurological connection, and the bridging from the mind, from the upside down into the inside, is literally impossible, except you're really well trained. But the easiest part is that we just need to bring that into the outside first. So when we are upside down, we're just actually going into the outside. And the simplest thing of doing is just like, just like, it's a tree, it's still upside down, but the pointing is just like, from a place of adoration and beauty, just like a child. Da. Da. And du kommst ins Staunen, So it just becomes beautiful. And when you're in the outside, then you're away already from the upside down. And then when you're in the outside, what you just said, somebody else's body is the outside, without the agenda, without the story, without the goal, without something comes back, without something you imagine happening. So just the outside, the body. You just see the magic of somebody else's body, and then you bring your hands on it, and then you go into the inside. You just feel it, and you feel your inner landscape, and you catch yourself immediately if you're in the upside down, or if you're in the feeling senses in the present moment of your skin. The inside, outside, upside down.
I love this one.
That's so good. I love that. It comes from not Harry Fedder's 3-minute game, not Clint Callahan, what is not impossible, possibility management. Brad Blanton from Radical Honesty. It's a fantastic work. Okay. Let's bring that for now to completion. Or you have any last sentence you want to say?
I wanted to get
There's so much more.
I wanted to get back to the nervous system.
We do. We have to change the battery and the card and stuff like that on one point. But let's finish for here now.
I just want to conclude with this is a work to do, and the only question is: do you want to stay where you are now, where you get your dopamine kick every 2 days, 3 days, or are you willing to open up and to look into something much deeper that you are actually longing for, and for a long time, and with just the wish to feel better, to have a better connection to people, to perhaps your partner. What do you choose? It's still a decision you make, and it's not an easy one. I can assure that. But what do you want? And there are people like us here who are willing to support that. So maybe if you don't have the strength to do it, you need somebody. And don't be shy, just reach out, and that's what I want to say. Just take the opportunity.
And we have tons of accessible resources where people can have a just understanding and a sniff of it, and I personally get that, if people have done their work, they have done some exploration, they're just doing some yoga, or they have done some breath work and all kind of stuff, but they don't arrive anywhere, and they don't feel they're making progress, or they're really stuck in porn, or they're just really doing the no-fap and then seeing, okay, monk mode doesn't do it either. And Tantra, you just have to read 1,000 books and paying, whatever amounts of money for kind of retreats where it's just only about, I don't know, getting laid or just like inheriting some traditions or something like that, or there's like people who have never done anything, sitting home drinking beer, watching TV or sport, and just like stage 1 guys who just like say, yeah, I know this is all I have, but I know there's something else. Yeah, let's have a look. So there's always something. There's a doorway or an accessible point, and that's the invitation. Just like try it out. Just come along to the monthly Monday or to your Sunday course or to whatever there is. And if you don't know how to find a link, so there's probably around this video that you watch somewhere an email or a link or something that you can take and
reach out over Instagram or Facebook. Just send a message. Just talk about it and exchange about what is going on.
Yeah. So if you feel like you really want to make a change, a shift, and getting deeper into something that is a mystery, or maybe you just have still some judgment about all that stuff, that's fine too. But just give it a try. Just like there's definitely some truth for you to find.
Yeah, give it a chance.
Yeah. All right.